Where would you like me to look? Like, should I look in the camera, or would you like me to look at you? Okay. First of all, I didn't realize you were going to be coming over, so I'm a little bit nervous. I've told my story quite a bit through the years as far as getting to financial independence. Yes, I have an ASMR channel. ASMR is automated. What does that stand for? Why do I wear the hat on the show? I wore the hat because, as you know, a lot of people don't talk about money. It's hard to find people on YouTube, on any other platforms, where people honestly talk about what they've done with money. Sorry, I just needed to get a Diet Coke. Anyway, cheers. Yeah, you can get one in the refrigerator if you want one. I did not do well with money at all when I was younger. I had a personal bankruptcy at age 29. My total debt at that time was about $40,000. I remember going to the judge to discharge the debt, and he looked at me and said, "Evan, are you ever going to do this again?" And I said, "No. I learned my lesson. I'll never run up debt again." It was $40,000. It got wiped away. So at age 29, I had a clean slate. I could start over. Now, the irony about that really is that during those years, unfortunately, I wasn't in a career path that afforded me a lot of luxury. My salary wasn't that high. I went to school for communications right here in Ohio. But, you get out of college with a communications degree, and it's like, what do you do, right? I had no clue. I wanted to work in television, but that didn't happen. So for the next 11 years up to age 40, I struggled. I call those my survival years, where all I could do basically was pay my expenses. I had a little bit of fun, but it was literally the leanest years of my life. But it was during those lean years, those 11 years, that I gathered, improved, and mastered the skill sets so that age 40, when the money did come and I was making a little bit more money, I had already proven the fact that I could live frugally for 11 years. So I then took that concept and I said to myself, "Evan, you are a financial train wreck. You made all these mistakes. What if you continue to live this way for the next 15 years, from age 40 to 55? What if I continued to pretend as though I was only making what I was making when I was younger?" So every year when I would build my budget on my spreadsheets, my main goal, after allocating all the money I needed for my true expenses, was to filter any extra money I had into savings and, most importantly, investing. If you watch any YouTube video right now and people talk about saving and investing, they'll tell you, savings is things like money markets, etc., short-term reserves. But investing in the stock market, in index funds, which is what I do, and you'll hear a lot of people talk about it in the financial independent community. Index funds ride the S&P 500 or whatever index it is. They're indexed. They're not managed funds. They're very cheap to own. The expense ratios are very low. An expense ratio is what it costs you built into the investing that you're doing within the fund. They take the money out. You don't even see it. Those expense ratios are super, super low. Low-cost index funds is the way to go within stocks and also within bonds as well. There was a really great YouTube video I saw on Diary of a CEO. Just Google it. You can take a look at it. What is her name? She's an Indian young woman that has her own YouTube channel. She's got millions of subscribers at this point. She's doing incredibly well. And she talks about exactly what I did. So I hope that this video gets to people that can say, oh, you know what, here's a guy that did what she said or what others have said, rather than just being somebody saying this is what I think you should do and not, following it up with certain facts. So I'm 59 years old. I'll be 60 next year. Again, I was broke at 40. So what I encourage young people to do is, again, go to their spreadsheets, figure out exactly what you're going to need to spend for the year, figure out if you're in a survival year or a thriving year. Survival year means, you know what, you're like me before when you couldn't save or invest. That's okay. You're spending your money on expenses. That's great. You're not going into debt. At some point in your career, if you play your cards right and you keep your expenses low, you're going to have wiggle room in your budget. You're going to have a line item and say, this is now investing. That happened for me again in 2006 when I was 40. The thing about me and my story is that, unlike you and other people, if you're in your 20s and in your early 30s, you can put less of your money into the stock market and get to exactly where I got to, but it's less of your money because you're going to have a lot more growth. Okay? I knew that I was behind the 8 ball. So when you're behind the 8 ball, what do you have to do? You have to catch up. I knew I had to put so much more of my own money into those investments every single year. So one year it may have been 10% that I was investing. Maybe next year it was 15, then 20%, then 25, then 30. Every year it was a conscious effort to put as much as I could into those investments. Now, where did it go? For people, and for myself included, when I was that age, I first had to fund, F-U-N-D, my savings into what I like to call short-term reserves, which is an emergency fund. You may lose your job. You've got to have 6 to 8 months in a money market, liquid, not in the stock market, maybe CDs, but anyway, it's liquid. You might get 3% right now, something like that. So what I did is I funded that. Then I'm like, okay, you know what? I knew I had to first maximize and put as much money as I could into what I had at my disposal. So whatever country you're in, you may have government-sponsored programs. In the United States, we have a 401k. My company had a 401k. They matched, so I put in the match. Then I went to my Roth IRA. I was watching the Suze Orman show in 2005 on CNBC, and she recommended a Roth IRA. And I'm, what's a Roth IRA? Well, it's money that you put into an account, into mutual funds most likely, where you fund it with after-tax money. If it comes from your paycheck, you already paid taxes on it, right? It's now in your checking account, and you say, you know what, I'm going to open up this Roth IRA and I'm going to fund it every year as much as I can. All of the gains on that account are tax-free when you withdraw them in retirement, as long as it's been in the account for 5 years and you're 59 and a half, something like that. You can take out the contributions at any time without any tax implications, but again, it's a retirement account, right? You shouldn't be taking money out of that anyway. You've got your emergency fund over here on the side. So I remember I went to T. Rowe Price. I opened up my Roth IRA. Congratulations. Opened that up, funded it for multiple years, finally got to a point where I was maxing it out every year. That's the secret. People get confused over, do I contribute to the match, whatever. Look at the dollar amounts. The government, or whatever country you're in, the government will say, this is how much you can put into that account. What is it, 10,000? Is it 15,000 a year? How much per year? And then back into the percent and see in your budget if you can afford to max it out. If you can't, then you wait till the following year or the following year and the following year. This strategy of mine took all the way up to 2016. So we're talking about 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. What is that? 10 years, right? I was working, having fun, paying my bills, had my emergency fund. I was maxing out, or getting to the point where I was maxing it out every year. Maybe one year I was putting in 7,000, the next year 8,000, because I got a 4% raise. Then I'm putting in an additional 1,000 here and there. In 2016 was when I was like, oh, I looked at my build-up budget and I said, Evan, you are now putting in the maximum into the Roth, the maximum into the 401k, and now there's a line item. And I have extra money after I allocated what I wanted for fun and other, and I had like $3,000. I waited to the end of the year. As long as I met my goal, I could have the 3,000. See how that works? You play with numbers throughout the year. You build your budget. You take from those buckets. You borrow from buckets if you have to. And then at the end of the year, win, right? I'm like, oh, I've got that 3,000 still. I did not need it for something else. That's when I would fund, usually in December, the taxable account. That's the third big account. So first you have your government-sponsored program. In the United States, it's a 401k. Maybe you've got a Roth IRA. In other countries, I think there's an equivalent of that as well. Then the taxable account. I only opened that taxable account once I had maxed out in 2016. That's when it came, those other two accounts. And on my channel, I have been talking about how, as an early retiree now, healthcare. We have to pay for our own healthcare. The Affordable Care Act, you have to show certain income. So that taxable account works really well as an account to sell shares to then show income for that year that you're in so that you can qualify for any subsidies of healthcare. I don't know how long the ACA will be around. I'm hoping it's around for the next 5 years. If so, then win for me. If not, I will adjust my plan. As I always tell people on my channel, that's what you do. You adjust your plan. Personal finance is fluid, right? You're always making adjustments. You just don't put it away and hope for the best. You're managing your money every single year. So that taxable account now has $200,000 in it. $100,000 my money I put in, $100,000 of gains. So my goal, as I've talked about on the last previous episodes, was selling those shares right now while the market is high to capture the win of the gains, because that account was not intended to grow forever. I put that money into that account with the sole purpose of retiring early. Now, not to say that those of you watching right now have to do exactly what I did. You may not want to retire at age 58 or 59. Maybe you want to work until you're 65 when Medicare kicks in, or whatever you may have in your country. Some countries actually have health care paid for like 100% for you, right? Where? I think Sweden or something. There's other countries where that may not be the case. But for me, that's what I decided to do. So, as part of my story, I also like to share with people now. Yeah, should I? Okay, yeah, I'll back into kind of like big picture dollar amounts. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, my net worth, is 1.7 million right now. When I was a guest on the Susie Orman Show in 2012, it was 200,000. I totally can't believe, and I share with my viewers on the channel, that in 13 years, I increased my net worth by 1.5 million. That is really huge, but you have to understand. Remember, that 1.5 million, a lot of it was money I put into the market, probably half. Maybe 700,000 was my money putting in there, 60, 70 grand a year for multiple years. Keep that in mind. So the growth was maybe half of that or something, right? So yes, keep that in mind. As I talked about earlier in this video, the younger you are, it may be a different equation for you, right? You may not have to put as much money into the market as I did. So start now while you're young. That compounding effect will be huge. But back to my net worth, 1.7. So what does that consist of? 200,000 approximately for my condo. What does that bring us to? 1.5. My condo's paid for. As I've talked about on my channel, I paid that off in 2019. Again, when I was a guest on the Suze Yorman show, she said refinance, which I did. At that time, I had purchased the condo in 2003 for $100,000. Through the recession, it went down in value. By the time 2012 rolled around, it was only worth $55,000, if you can believe that. It's worth almost $200,000 right now. So her advice to me was, don't keep putting principal towards your mortgage to get it paid off when you're age 50. She said, I was age 46 at the time. She said, refinance. Use the HARP program. I'm not going to get into details of that because it no longer exists, but it was a refinance program through Obama that allowed me to refinance even though I had no equity. A lot of times you have to show at least 20% equity, in the property to refinance. So I went from a 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage. The interest rate went from 5.5 to 3.25. So I was like, even though I had to pay a couple $1,000s in closing costs, I made that up over the course of the next several years. I ended up deciding to pay it off in 2019. Why? Because I wanted that big win. I only had $30,000 left on it. I had the money at that point. She wanted me to refinance because I didn't have enough in cash reserves. Good idea, because I didn't know if I'd lose my job. If I lost my job, then that would have been devastating. So she was right. But in retrospect, I did not lose my job. I had my job for 26 years. I'm very thankful for that. And I was always making a little bit more money. So I chose at that point, pay it off. I felt great. Sometimes in personal finance, you do what makes you feel the best. And so that's wiped out in terms of the loan that I had. So back to my net worth. Okay. 1.7 minus 200,000 is 1.5. I have a traditional IRA now. I took my 401k when I quit my job and I rolled it into a traditional IRA. That is about 800,000. No, maybe 650, somewhere in there. And in my 401k previously, I had in some years contributed to the Roth portion of the 401k, which is after-tax money. I was paying the taxes then during the year in which that funding occurred. So as a result, I had a mixture of pre- and post-tax money. Pre-tax went to traditional IRA, post-tax went to a new Roth IRA with Fidelity. So that money is approximately $900,000. Vanguard is where I have my taxable account. And I have a Roth IRA with Vanguard as well. Am I doing the math right? Where's my calculator? Let's see, hold on. Yeah, hold on, it's over here. Do you need a Diet Coke? No? Okay, hold on. Yeah, I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible because I know people have things to do, right? Okay, shh. But it's important. I mean, you don't hear about people. You hear people on YouTube talking about what you should do, but very few people are out there talking about what they've done. So here's what I've done. 1.7. That is my net worth. Let's back it out. Minus 200,000. The value of my property. Now I've got 1.5. I just said that with Fidelity, I've got the 900,000. Minus 900,000 equals 600,000. 600,000, okay. Vanguard, my taxable account, even though I sold some shares, remember, it's going to be part of the money. It's in my short-term reserves now for funding of 2026. But let's go ahead and take out, I think it's 200,000 for the taxable account. Did I say that right a minute ago? I hope so. So now I've got 200,000. What is the 200,000? Minus 200,000. I may have screwed that up. Hold on. 1.7. Let's do it this way. Actually, the value of my home is only like 170 minus 170, 123. Boom. Minus 650, 1, 2, 3, Fidelity, traditional minus 200, 1, 2, 3, Roth, Fidelity, Roth. Now let's go to Vanguard, minus 212, 1, 2, 3, is the taxable. Now I've got 468 minus 200,000. Yeah, 200,000 is the Vanguard Roth. Leaves you with 268,000. Is that the money I have in short-term reserves? That seems really high. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't mention I have a health savings account. That is about 68,000. Let's take away 68,000. Minus 68, 1, 2, 3 equals 200,000. Okay. Wait, did I go too far? 17000 minus 650, 1, 2, 3 minus 200, 1, 2, 3 minus 200, 1, 2, 3 minus 200, 1, 2, 3 minus 68, 1, 2, 3 minus 382. Hold on. You can edit this later for your TV show. I have a tote money tab. Everybody should have a tote money tab. Hi, Vay. Let's see. These are current numbers, I think. Hold on. Okay, let's... These are not the current numbers. Maybe I should update these, shall we? This is going to be a long video, but you know what? Just relax. This is also ASMR, right? Maybe this will be an intermission. It's real life stuff, you know? So let's update these numbers. We have time. No time like the present. Total money. We get rid of... Let's see. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take the time to update these numbers. Now, how should I do this? I really should update these the way they should be because I took money out of that taxable account and I moved it over here to short-term reserves. So let's do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, minimize this. Open up a new session. Tap, tap. This is the ASMR portion of the interview. Because I can do what I want. It's my channel, right? Oops. Subtract. How do I do this? New window. I need to go to Vanguard. Vanguard. Now I'm on Vanguard. I do it on my phone, but you're using that as the camera, so I can't. Cheers. Hey, you know, building wealth takes time. It also takes time to manage your money. So that's what we're doing right now. We're getting an updated. Okay. So the brokerage account is now 171,608. Which makes sense because I took 40,000 out. Let's see. So I need to go back to here. I'm going back to my show. Taxable is now, these are updated numbers, 171,608. What is the Roth Vanguard? See, I've got 2 Vanguard accounts. I mean, 2 Roth IRAs. It's sitting at 210,871. So let's go back over to here. Relax. 210,871. That's close to what it was before. Okay, Fidelity Roth. Now I need to open up Fidelity Roth. Fidelity's really pushing their annuities. Oh no. Text me the code. Think I'll be able to read it? It's not. Oh, there it is. I can't read it. I'm going to mess up my camera. Resend code. See if I can read it. I can't read it. This is very annoying. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? Can I do that on my iPad? Probably. I just don't know where my iPad went. Relax. Relax. Is that going to show up on here? It's not showing up there. I don't know why. Okay, we're just going to go with the numbers I had before. They're very close. Yeah, that's about right. 900,000. Oh, I did forget the I-bond too. Okay. So, investments add up to 1369507. 1369507. However, I have to, on the short-term reserve side, I need to add in 40,000, 1, 2, 3, and that's going to be spending 2026. Okay. Why does that seem low? Don't I have 1.7? I'm so tired of people walking by. $1,560. So maybe I don't have 1.7. Something's not right. Oh God, what am I thinking? 1,560 plus, this does not include the condo. Sheesh. The condo, 170, 123, brings you to 1.7. Okay. Shall we try again? Hopefully you're all relaxed. Maybe they're sleeping. I don't know. This is an ASMR channel, right? So, back to the 1.7. That includes taxable account with Vanguard 171,608. The Roth is 210,871. The Fidelity Roth is 244,734. The traditional IRA at Fidelity is 655,850. My health savings account, 64,400. I have an I-bond. I didn't mention that before. That's 22,000 for roughly 1.369 or 1,370,000. Adding in now the short-term reserves includes the spending for 2026 was 40 grand. I have a CD with Ally Bank, about 30,000. I have another CD with Ally for 60,000. I have a CD at my credit union, 34,000. And you know, we have to zero out the money market because I'm going to spend, what's going on? I'm going to spend that to zero. So I'm going to put in a zero right there. Boink. So really, without the condo, it's one. So investing and savings comes to 1,532,838. 1,532,838 plus, I'll say my condo's worth about 175. 175, 123. Boom, that's 1.7. 1,707,838. Because when you talk about net worth, it includes everything that you have as assets minus liabilities. I have no liabilities. Did I mention that? I have no debt. Yeah, so as you get older, I always tell young people, do not continue to have debt. You don't want that. All right, so that's pretty much my story. I know we're going up on about 45 minutes. Thanks for coming over. I really appreciate it. You know, once this airs on my channel and on your little thing that you've got going on over there for this interview, yeah, I don't know if anybody's going to be awake. They might be. But anyway, again, this is all I did. I tell young people this all the time. I try to make it fun, you know, wear the hat, be goofy. I want them to know that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to become wealthy, just do what I did. If you don't want to do exactly what I did, do other things. If you want to be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. But you have to make sure that you're going to succeed in those ventures. Like years ago, I wanted to work in television, right? I said to myself, Evan, it's not working. You have to pivot. You're going to have to do something else if you want to be wealthy. Stop trying to look wealthy and be wealthy. Continue to put your money into these vehicles, month after month, year after year. As I always say, it's going to give you options when you're my age, and I decided I don't want to work anymore. Most people have to work to age like 67 or 70. I have all of these years. I can do whatever I want. I can stay in Airbnbs like this. So are we done with this interview? Okay. All right, well, thanks so much for coming by. Next time, give me more advance notice so I can do my hair or something. All right, thanks for coming. Bye-bye. Whew, boy. Next time, maybe they'll give me more advance notice.